How did you balance building strong businesses and ensure they had sustainable long-term growth?
When you look at a business which is growing, there's what is called the S curve. You go up like that, and then it's going down. Then you say, before you reach that point, you are ready for the changes that are taking place, whether it's consumer habits or competition or change in market or even regulations that come in that can change your thing. That's how you look at it. Now, regarding toughest challenges, I would like to make one thing clear. We talked about courage. In the past, courage was when you were fighting somebody with a gun or with a machete. Now the courage comes mentally. And this is what I want to talk about. The two mental issues that I will take up and how I dealt with them. One of them was, and I'm going to give you a little example. When I was in Ghana, I found that our oil was not selling as well as it should. It was only occupying 20% of capacity. Now, that means it was taking the whole cost of the full spectrum, but we were only producing 20%, so the costs were high. But the competition was coming from abroad, from Malaysia, Indonesia, etc., and they were selling their product slightly cheaper and slightly better. So my challenge was first to improve the product. Then, how do I fight them? And I looked at it two ways. And I investigated what's going to happen to our foreign exchange. And I found that maybe we may be devaluing. So that was one element that I put in the back of mind. Second one, I went back to the head office and I said, look, I have something that I'm taking a risk on, which is I'm going to sell my product as it is producing 100%. So the costs will be down. For a short time, we'll make a loss. And so I did that. When we were dealing with the competition from the imported palm oil products, one of the elements that was important was having the courage to talk to the palm plantation owners. There were two in Ghana at the moment, and to tie them up. And the idea was, I called them one after the other. I said, look, what is the issue you have with them? And they said, oh, you're not buying enough. You said you would buy more. I said, okay, what if I do a deal with you and buy 100% of your production for the next 2 or 3 years on the condition that you keep the price exactly as it is today? And they said, one of them said, oh, that's music to my ear. I said, fine. So we did that deal 2 years. Palm became expensive from the imported side. For us, sourcing it locally at a much lower price meant that we had a huge improvement in our profits. And that took a bit of courage. And what happened suddenly? Devalued also happened, so we didn't lose much. So the product that was coming from abroad was much higher cost now. So we were now in a winner's game. So we were producing at 100%, and so the costs were realistic now. That was one. The other challenge we had was how you look at the market. When I was in Kenya, majority of the soaps that we sold were Lifebuoy or Lux. Lux was more appealing to the Indian population, and Lux was the white models, etc. And I'm selling in a market that's 99% for Africans. So what do I have to do? So I looked at it, did a lot of research. What color do they like? What is it they want? How do they want it? What is the psyche all about? And so I looked at it, they liked green color. So we made green soap. And in the soap, we put a little vignette, a little impression of a woman. And then I briefed the advertising agency that we are going to produce this soap, green. And the idea will be the African woman comes along and says, oh, I love my black African skin. There's a mirror, she looks into it. And then the second one was price. So they take a lot of skincare products on the shelf and throw it away and say, you don't need this. So we had now put in the mind, it's my product, it doesn't cost much. Those are the two challenges that I used. Now, what do you need there? You need to be innovative, you take a risk, All right? That requires courage. What is courage? I told you it's a mental thing, not a physical thing. And that's what we did.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Many scouts listening today are young people preparing to lead in different ways. What advice would you give them about leadership?
Leadership can be viewed differently. Some people think when you're a leader, you're the boss. That's not how you define or I define leadership. Leadership is by looking at the people who work with you, people who are going to deliver your vision. You treat them like family. Let me give you a few examples of what was done when I was in Kenya. I was given the responsibility of having a new company, separate from the main company, putting up a new building, which is a factory, offices and everything. So one of the first things I said to myself was, if I'm going to make them a family, I don't want the old style of manager's dining room and a worker's canteen. So I integrated the two. So everybody feels part of the same. They have the same food, etc. But the most important thing to remember is unions will always come up with issues on food, which is natural, human beings. So what we did, and I said to the union, is look, you're going to be the same food, etc. And you present tickets, which you will be given for a month. Each time you give a ticket, there are two types of tickets. Food A, food B, and you decide which one you want. But no, it will not be free in that sense. There's a cost to each ticket. Now, in order to help you, I will add that cost to your normal salary. So you then have to decide what you want to do. So what happens is if they have some issues with the food, and the food we said was not going to be us, it'll be third parties. So we are not, so they negotiate. I said to union guy, you negotiate with them. Now, when they negotiate, they're not going to pay more. They will have some arguments and they'll come back and say, there's a small change, so we can discuss this. So that was the starting point of building a family. Yeah, eating together. Eating is the most important, valuable notion in a human life. Yeah, so that's one. Secondly, now when you are gaining trust, you look at the tradition of the society. Now, in the African society in Kenya, the older people are reckoned to be the wise people. There's wisdom there, which these young people have to respect. What I did was every Friday, I would call the older people. They're not that many. Would sit with me, have tea with me, a cup of tea or whatever, and talk about the children, what they're doing, what help they need in education. Because we were quite clear we would help with education. So somebody's going to become a doctor. Here's a woman who's on the factory floor. Her son's going to be a doctor. So there is an upliftment, which we said we would support. And we talk. So when it came, excuse me, when it came to negotiations for union wages, I had a HR director who reported to me, and I said, look, give them this percent. So they came, and the union guys came running to me and says, Mr. Jesani, I said, yes. So the management is doing this and doing this. I said, I'm the management. They laughed. And they said, no, we're talking about the HR. So what's the problem? He said, he's offering me 3.5% increase. I said, what are you asking for? He said, we asked for 7, but we'll negotiate. I said, okay. I said, now, before you negotiate, can we look at one thing? They said, what? I said, you believe that old people are wiser? He said, yes. So today, why is they getting the same pay as you? They should be getting more. You agree? They said, yes. So I said, what shall we do? Let's say I agree for 1.5 for you. Let's say that's done. Let's say, okay. So what should we do with so one guy says, what about 8? 8% for them. I said, no. 7. I said, no. 6. I said, no. 5. I said, no. But that's near us. I said, yes. We give them 11. And they said, 11. And my HR director comes and says, Mr. Jesani, you're giving them 11. I said, yes. And I said, tell me, as a percentage of the whole total, these are 7% of the total. So what is the cost to the company? And look at the impact it's going to have. So what happens is they then feel part of family. So when it came to near Christmas, when we were running out of product, I said to the union, I said, look, we need product. I'd like you to work over Christmas. Now, that they never do normally. I said, okay, we'll do that. I said, in return, I'll give you the best party in the biggest hotel in Kenya. How's that? Okay. I said, we'll do it. Now is December. We'll do it in February on Valentine's Day. Now they were very happy because a lot of them were women working on the shop floor. So when it came to February 14th, at 12 noon, I called a meeting with all of them. I said, ladies, are you almost ready for the party tonight? They said, almost. I said, why? Do you want your hair done? I said, yes. I said, well, the buses are outside at 12 o'clock noon. And you come to the hotel. The bus will pick you up from your different places. You come to the hotel at 7 o'clock. And then I called these union guys and I said, look, we're getting the board of directors coming through. There should be no issues there. If somebody's getting drunk, you've got to be, because there's booze available. You know what they did? Somebody they saw slightly drunk, they pick him up and take him out. So there was no issues. The party started at 7 in the evening and ended at 4 in the morning. Because it went so well. Food was there, the dancing, the music, etc. So the whole idea is if you treat them well, they will treat you well. And that's what's called leadership. It's not only you want to be treated well, it's a question of how to run a business. And that's leadership. You don't boast about do this, do that. You actually take their ideas. Some of those are more experts than you are in certain fields. So you're not know everything, fellow. That's how leadership works.
So what advice would you give about the leadership?
I think in a very fast changing environment, it's going to be a real challenge. We are now facing a major technological change which is going to affect not only the businesses, but life in general. If you look at some of the philosophers who are writing at the moment, there's one called Yuval Noah Harari, who's written the very famous book called The Sapiens. He's written 3 more books. And there he's but actually he's writing about the changes. And one of them is humanoids. We'll be half human and half machine. So now, this is going to be a different world. So what you need, again, is first educate yourself in understanding what's going on. But remember, AI is a tool, not the final result. You educate yourself, then there is persistence, creativity that kicks in. And of course, courage to ensure that you go the right way. And entrepreneurs means courage. And that's one thing. But education becomes very important. Creativity, innovation becomes very important. That's what the future is all about. Okay?
So you mean to say that we have to be updated with the latest changes happening across the world and what the new educational, like we now, the many countries, they are revising their educational system also. And plus AI is there. AI is also helping as a helping tool to the systems where earlier things were doing little delay, but now we can do in a minutes and seconds. So as a leader, we should make sure that we update ourselves. We should accept the changes. We should go according to the environmental changes.
That's what I'm saying.
That's all. Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right.
You have mentored and guided many in your career.
Yes.
What do you think make a great mentor?
You see, to mentor, you must understand the psyche of the person. You treat him as a protege of yours, like your child, him or her, doesn't matter, it's man or woman. And the most important skill you have is listening. People sometimes talk. You don't talk. Once you've listened to him, you talk, you don't lecture. That is the key. And then having understood him, what are his aspirations? Where does he want to go? What is his competence? All those 3 things come into play. So you can't shove him to a spacecraft engineer when you know his technical capacities are very different. So you mentor him, and it is lifelong mentoring if need be for the child. Lifelong meaning till he or she finishes school. And so therefore you are there full time for him or her. And actually the girls now are doing extremely well. So, and they are doing better. So it doesn't matter whether it's a female or a male. That's what is important.
Thank you. So something I will, I want to know more about the giving back and social impact. So related things I will ask you now. You have been very active in education, charity, and community services. Why has that been such an important part of your life?
Let me go back to what's been done. In education, I was chairman of Aga Khan Education Services, so we had several schools. Then we had requests from some schools which were really Christian, but to us it didn't matter who they were. Religion was not important. So we helped them by training their staff. So we trained the trainers to train them. Then came a request from the Muslim Association, who had madrasas. And what we found, that out of Kenya population, 25% were Muslims, but in university they were only 2%. So now that was a real challenge. What are we going to do? So we went there to the madrasas, and they said, how long are you teaching? So they were teaching half day. So we said, the next half of the day, we will do secular teaching. And we started that. We employed teachers, we got people going there. And what happened, we did a tracer study for a period of 12 years to see how it, and then we saw in the university entrance, it had gone from 2 to 8% in that period. And so we were hoping that gradually it will climb up even more. So those were in education. And also, doesn't matter whether the kid's black, brown, or yellow. Important thing is he's part of the community and part of the nation. So you're helping to build the nation. That is key. And that is a law that we follow, Scout law. Yeah? So that was one thing. So that was education. Then the second, community services. One of the things in developing nations is facility for housing. So one of the projects I undertook was to see, how do I get the fund for that? I didn't want to go begging people. So what I did with some friends of mine to set a committee where we raised money. How did we raise? New Year's Ball. People come because they had nowhere else to go, and you charge well. They enjoy it. So the whole motto was, we give entertainment and then collect money. So they don't donate. They think it's good fun to be paying that money. With that, we did a scheme of building houses for some of the poor people in the area where we were living. So that's housing. So that's partly charity. Yeah.
Can you share a moment from community that was especially meaning to you?
What do you mean?
Like, can you share a moment from the community work that was especially meaning to you? Community work, which is really meaning to you. Yeah,
what?
Sure, there are many things.
What I'm proud of.
Yes.
It's difficult to identify a single one. You remember, I told you about education, I told you about housing. Yeah. There were other little things which we did. Yeah. For example, there was a men troop that I was, as part of my responsibility for youth. I said to myself, this men troop is boys only. So I introduced girls into the men troop. And the girls were good. They played the trumpet, they beat the drums. So those are key elements. So this is not one single element that I was after. It is the whole structure, because you are talking about the nation and the community. Okay?
Great. What role do you see Scouts and youth organizations playing in addressing global challenges like poverty, education, or climate change?
I think that's a tough one, because here you have to have people who you sort of nurture to think of climate, think of environment, what God has given, so you don't ruin the environment. Then you think about poverty. There are people in your midst who are living in poverty. How can you help them without, as I said, going for donations? They have creative ideas to do that. Yeah, and you make some boys or girls get together and go and help to do this.
Regarding this, I would like to add in your point now, because we are now working with Dubai Scout Mission and the Ahmed Scout Association. The project is by WOSM, World Organization of Scout Movement. That is, especially they are focusing on these challenges. United Nations, they have 17 goals, which they are targeting to achieve maximum. And one of the country which selected is the United Arab Emirates, which as a scouts from Aga Khan Scouts and Guides, also they are actively participating into the sustainable innovation training leaders. So they have done a sustainable innovation solution for the leaders. So they are training a leaders, and the leader is training to their team. So they have a 30 scouts and guides within their patrol or their troops or the groups, and they have to make a project which impact and implement towards the sustainability and to achieve the goal. So right now scouting is very actively also participating and actively participating in this projects related to the sustainability, and that you were doing the different way. Now we are doing also in the different way.
No, I think the important thing is now you have the national government behind this.
Yes.
So you got a lot of now help which wasn't available then.
Yes.
So the funding is not going to be an issue. The issue is how to approach the projects. Which project? Which environment are we talking about? You see, here we've been lucky. We haven't had the issues that you see now in Philippines, in China, in Europe, the flooding, the fires. We're not experienced that. So our mindset will be slightly different into saying, how do we protect the environment? How do we become green environment? That would be the driving force here.
Thank you. Looking back at your journey, what are the most proud of?
What am I most proud of?
Yeah.
I think my pride lies in helping to develop worthwhile citizens of the country, meaning the education was the key driver. And of course, the little community service of housing, etc. But the key driver was education. And this was not only in Kenya that was being driven. I was responsible for education in about 4 or 5 countries in Africa. And there, most of my effort was done in Kenya and Uganda. The others were a bit remote and small. So that's where my focus was.
If you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what it would be?
I would say 3 things, not one. One is balance of life. Work and life balance. And in life balance, you add, if you like, religion. Whether you're Christian, Muslim, it doesn't really matter. Religion and meditation helps a lot. Now there's a lot of research being done of how meditation helps your mind. And through that, you can see how help can be given. I mean, this is a far-reaching point, but it's not going to be easy.
So balanced life.
Balanced life.
So that advice.
And health.
And health.
Health, I'm talking about not only physical health, I'm talking mental health. It's going to be, as community is growing older, that becomes an issue. You've seen Alzheimer's, etc.
Yeah.
That will be an issue.
What's next for you? Any project or goal you are excited about?
Project, no. You remember, I'm not a young toddler. I'm not a spring chicken anymore. Yeah. Next is really what I said to you earlier, or I don't know whether I mentioned it. Education is lifelong. It has to be continuous. And that's what I am trying to do. And my thing is now to delve more into the new technologies coming in, understand AI better than I have at the moment. So that would be my goal.
So, Mr. Abdul Jesani, see, we have a picture from the very old, 70 years, almost 70 years ago. So, can you just explain about these pictures and importance in the scouting, the values give to you?
This is a picture which is Cubs and Scouts together when one of our leaders, Prince Ali Khan, visited Kenya. So we all gathered there, and if you see, I'm the only one who doesn't have a cap. Yeah? And the reason for that is because I gave it as a souvenir.
Mashallah.
Okay?
That's great.
So that's why I didn't have that.
Thank you. And there are some more. I can see the pictures of the mountain, and there are the
This is the mountain where if I'd fallen from the rope, I would have ended there.
Oh.
This is the big crevice, yeah.
And there is a...
This photograph was taken on Mount Kilimanjaro. It shows you a forest-like thing. Now, what we had to do was to spend a night there and a day. So when you say spend a night, you had to build your own little shelter, which is called a bivouac. So you take branches and trees and you turn them out, put leaves on top and branches on top, so that becomes a shelter, and you have your sleeping bag. And then you have to cook your food. So now you don't have matches. So you have to learn to light fire with 2 sticks or 2 stones. So all that is for your self-preservation. So you learn how to do things in extreme difficulties.
Okay, now there I can see here, you said unforgettable year of Jesani. It's, can you explain about this picture?
This is my meeting with the king of Ashanti, who is a big power in Ghana. And this I learned, and I said, now I can meet people, I can be courageous and go. Sometimes people are scared to meet. And so I was introduced to the king.
So do you think that all this in your life learning and life journey, that scouting has given you the strength and the courage, along with your, for sure, there is a family support, guidance, education is there. But do you think that scouting is one of the key element also in our life?
I would say key. I would say an important element.
Important. Thank you.
Because you had your family who were giving you values. You then had your teachers, all that, which are all blended in. So it is a complete circle rather than an individual. Yeah. Yes, scouting has been an important element in my life.
So finally, thank you so much, Mr. Abdul Jesani, for sharing your journey, your wisdom, your experience with us today. It's been an honor to having you, and I know scouts and listeners everywhere will take away a lot
inspiration
from this conversation. At last, thank you so much, and we'll keep taking guidance from you and advices from you. Thank you
very much. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you.